Thanks for joining me on episode 1273 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Joe Saul-Sehy from the Stacking Benjamins podcast. I encourage you to find ways to be inspired to find financial freedom. And one way I do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Maderer.
So that may shift a little bit as things happen, but that's the framework, at least from now, for the near future. Thanks for being along for the ride. Thanks for listening and joining in. Thanks for the feedback and the shares and all of the other things that you do. I couldn't continue to do this without great listeners like you.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
Today's podcast, I'm just sharing some upcoming changes that are coming to the podcast and how it will be released in the weeks that follow. Please give it a quick listen. It's not too long. One area that a lot of folks need some help with is around the area of productivity. Getting not just more things done, but actually getting the right things done can be really tough. I've got a course called Productivity for Your Passion that's designed to help you do this and then to hold you accountable and walk with you so that you can tailor productivity not just to be getting more done, but actually getting the right things done. What's more, we take the approach of looking at your personality and how you actually look at things in the world and tailor the productivity system to your personality. Because the truth is, a lot of the systems that are out there are written really well for somebody with a particular personality type. But if you have a different approach to things, they just don't work. But there's tools and techniques and approaches that you can take that will work for anyone. And we help you do that in Productivity for Your Passion. Check it out over at inspiredstewardship.com/launch. This will be a pretty quick episode. I'm just updating you on a few changes. Earlier this year, I talked about some changes that would be coming in the new year. I'm still working on my book. It should be out by January of 24. That's the plan right now. That's obviously taken a little longer than I expected, but anyone that's worked on creative work like that knows that that's often how it comes. It's really shaping up to be something interesting and good. I'm wanting to free up some time to continue working on that and fine tune it. As well, I've got a new podcast project that I'm working on with some other coaches where we're getting together to work on something. I'm not exactly sure what it'll be called yet. It might be called, it'll have the word accountable in it, and I'll share it on this podcast whenever it goes live. But we're trying to launch a podcast with a focus on what coaching does for people and how you can get value out of it. We're still working on it. It should be out sometime in the new year, probably by February or so. Again, I'll share more information as those details become available. So in part of that, I'm now going to be shifting to get some more interviews out. Folks have been scheduling, and sometimes it's several months before their interview can come out. I don't like doing that. I like to share things in a more timely manner. And so because of that, I'm going to be doing a standalone interview on Monday and a standalone interview on Saturday. I'm also going to keep sharing the spiritual episode that I've been doing on Tuesdays every week, and those will continue to come out on Tuesday. And I'm dropping the 3 standalone time, talent, and treasure episodes for right now. Really, that's in part to free up time. It's also because I've gone through the major shares that I wanted to do in that, and the content that I wanted there is now shifting over to the book, and I'll be going on other people's shows to share that information as well. In the interviews and in the spiritual episode, you'll continue to hear an emphasis on faith and the faith journey and how that intersects with whatever message the person is sharing that comes on the show. That focus has continued to shift throughout the years and become more and more prominent within the show. And so that's what I want to highlight moving forward. Eventually, this podcast probably will sunset and go its way, but for right now, you can expect to continue to see about 3 episodes a week, so half from what it was when it was 6 a week, focusing on 2 interviews and 1 standalone episode. I may release from time to time a special episode or a special interview or something else to highlight a particular topic or something that's going on. So that may shift a little bit as things happen, but that's the framework, at least from now, for the near future. Thanks for being along for the ride. Thanks for listening and joining in. Thanks for the feedback and the shares and all of the other things that you do. I couldn't continue to do this without great listeners like you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.